This video is about the circumstances surrounding each count of Lucy Letby's trial. All the attempted murders and all the murders. The identities of the babies and the families are protected, and I really wouldn't want to cover them anyway, but we're going to get straight onto it. I'm going to let my artificial intelligence friend cover the case, just because it's bog standard information, so it don't really need to be personalised. I'll let her carry on with it. Please do remember to be sensitive. Please do remember that Lucy is pleading not guilty, so she hasn't been found guilty yet. This is all alleged. Enjoy, and I'll see you later in the week with the trial information.
Child A. Child A was the first alleged murder at just 1 day old on the 8th of June 2015. Delivered by cesarean section at 31 weeks, he was admitted to the intensive care room in the neonatal unit of the hospital, but was in good condition and did well. By the following morning, he was breathing in air, without extra oxygen help, and was given expressed breast milk. An hour after starting her shift, Letby called a doctor to the baby's incubator, and the on-call consultant was also alerted. Both doctor and consultant noted an odd discoloration on the boy's skin, patches of pink over blue skin that appeared and disappeared. Mr. Johnson said this became a hallmark of some of the cases in which Letby had injected air into the bloodstream of a victim. Despite resuscitation attempts, Child A was pronounced dead at 2 minutes to 9 at night. A pathologist concluded that air in Child A's circulation was most likely caused by air administration through one of the 2 tubes already attached to the baby's body. Child B. Child B was Child A's twin. She required resuscitation at birth on the 7th of June, but recovered quickly and stabilized, but shortly before midnight, it was noted her blood oxygen levels had fallen and that her nasal prongs had been dislodged. At 12:30 a.m. on the 9th of June, she was blue in color, was not breathing, and was limp. An on-call registrar was alerted, and she recovered quickly once resuscitated. An expert pediatrician apparently concluded Child B was subjected to some form of sabotage and may have been injected with a dose of air. Child B does not appear to have suffered any adverse consequences. Child C was born prematurely. He was in intensive care but in good condition. He was 5 days old on the 14th of June 2015. It's alleged that Lucy injected air into his stomach through a nose tube. He died because the air in his stomach made him unable to breathe, and he suffered a cardiac arrest. Lucy was looking after another baby, but was the only person in the room when he suddenly collapsed. Child D had been responding well to treatment after losing color and becoming floppy after birth, but collapsed 3 times in the early hours of the 22nd of June 2015. On the 3rd collapse, she could not be revived. It's alleged that she had air injected into her bloodstream. It's also found that Lucy searched for the baby's parents on Facebook after the death. Child E, a twin boy, who has been visited by his mother on the evening of the 3rd of August 2015 in the neonatal unit. As she visited, she found him distressed and bleeding from the mouth. The mother recalled Lucy tried to reassure her and told her a registrar would review the youngster's condition and she should leave the unit. Child E went on to suffer significant blood loss later in the evening. Following his death in the early hours of the 4th of August, it's alleged that Lucy made fraudulent nursing notes which were false, misleading, and designed to cover her tracks. She repeatedly searched for the family on social media after his death. It's claimed he was murdered by an injection of air into the bloodstream. Child F is the twin of Child E. The day after allegedly murdering Child E, Lucy Letby allegedly tried to murder Child F. This was the first time she allegedly tried to use insulin to poison a baby. Child G is alleged that Lucy Letby attempted to murder Child G on 3 separate occasions in September 2015. The 6th of September was a significant date. At this point, Child G was 100 days old, but in the early hours of the following day, it's alleged that Lucy fed an excessive amount of milk to Child G through a nasogastric tube, and it's claimed she may have injected air. Child G vomited out of her cot and onto a nearby chair and the floor. She had suffered a collapse and was not breathing. She was moved back to the hospital where she was born and quickly recovered before she returned to the Countess of Chester on the 16th of September. Child G had 2 projectile vomits and stopped breathing briefly on September 21st after she was earlier fed milk via a nasogastric tube, allegedly by Lucy Letby. In the mid-afternoon, a nurse responded to Lucy's shout for help and noticed the monitor had been switched off while the child was struggling to breathe. Child G was left severely disabled as a result of the first 2 episodes. Child H. Lucy is accused of attempting to murder Child H on 2 consecutive night shifts in September 2015. The child suffered 2 profound collapses and required resuscitation with the use of adrenaline. No clear cause for either incident was identified at the time. Child H was transferred to another hospital where she dramatically improved. Child I collapsed and required chest compressions in the early hours of the 23rd of October 2015, but was successfully resuscitated and recovered to the extent she was showing signs of hunger. She later collapsed and died. Attempts had been made to revive her, but they were unsuccessful. An expert pediatrician who reviewed Child I's case had concluded the youngster's deteriorations were consistent with the deliberate administration of a large amount of air into her stomach via a nasogastric tube. Lucy sent a sympathy card to the parents and made Facebook searches for the family. Child J was born prematurely at 32 weeks and 2 days. Child J had an operation for a bowel disorder, but was doing well and was healthy. But she suffered an unexplained collapse overnight between the 26th and 27th of November. Child J suffered 2 serious problems with her breathing in the night and was moved to a high-dependency room. At 6:56 in the morning of the 27th, her oxygen level dropped so low it was unrecordable, and she went into seizure. At 20 minutes past 7 in the morning, Lucy Letby gave the baby a glucose infusion. Then minutes later, Child J collapsed again with a seizure and had to be resuscitated with the help of a doctor. An independent medical expert who reviewed Child J's case said it was of concern and consistent with some form of obstruction of her airways, such as smothering. Again, Lucy searched for the child's family on Facebook the month after. Child K. Dr. Ravi Jayaram walked into Child K's room to find Letby alone with Child K. Child K's chest was not breathing, and her breathing tube was found to be dislodged. Later the same morning at 7:30, Lucy Letby was again at Child K's cot calling for help. She was assisting the baby with her breathing, and it was found Child K's breathing tube had this time slipped too far into her throat. Child K was transferred to another hospital later that day, but remained unwell and died 2 days later. However, Lucy is accused of attempted murder and not murder. Apparently, when the doctor walked in on Lucy, he was suspicious. Child L. On the 9th of April 2016, Lucy allegedly attempted to murder Child L by giving them an unauthorized dose of insulin, and while that attack was underway, she allegedly turned her attentions to Child M by administering air into his circulation. Lucy has apparently agreed the insulin could not have been given accidentally, but she's also said she was not responsible. Her only explanation was it must have already been in one of the bags he was receiving. Child M. Child M, who we have just mentioned, came close to death after his heart rate and breathing dropped dramatically without warning, but improved on the night shift that followed and went on to make a speedy recovery. When Lucy home in Chester was searched 2 years later, a number of medical notes were found which detailed how many doses of adrenaline were given to Child M during his collapse. Child N was born at 34 weeks in June 2016. His clinical condition was described as excellent, although he did have mild hemophilia, which is a blood disorder. At 5 minutes past 1 in the morning, the day-old baby suffered a sudden lowering of his blood oxygen levels to life-threatening levels. 12 days later, on the 15th of June, Lucy Letby is alleged to have made 2 more attempts to murder Child N. Child N was almost ready to go home when Letby entered his room. When a second nurse had her back turned, Letby told her the baby had lost oxygen and immediately assisted with his breathing. a doctor was unable to put a breathing tube into the child after discovering fresh blood inside his mouth. The medic could not see the back of the child's throat as it was so swollen. Around 3 p.m. that day, there was a further collapse of child N with his oxygen levels falling to life-threatening levels, and a further attempt to insert a breathing tube again found blood in his throat. Independent medical experts suggested the blood in child N's mouth was a result of the thrusting of a tube into the back of his throat to inflict injury. He was later transferred to a specialist children's hospital in Liverpool, where he recovered quickly. Child O. Child O was in good condition and stable up until the afternoon of the 23rd of June, when he suffered a remarkable deterioration. A post-mortem examination found unclotted blood in his body from a liver injury, and a coroner certified death on the basis of natural causes and intra-abdominal bleeding. The expert also concluded Child O had received excessive amounts of air into the bloodstream and through a nasogastric tube. Child P. Lucy allegedly murdered Child P., one of triplets, on the 24th of June 2016, which is the day after she is said to have murdered his brother, which is Child O. Child P suffered an acute deterioration before preparations were put in place to move him to another hospital. Just before the planned transfer, a doctor was said to be optimistic about his prospects. Shortly after, Child P collapsed and died. A coroner recorded the death as prematurity, but independent experts who were tasked with reviewing Child P's case said the most likely cause was air injected into his stomach, which compromised his breathing. After Child P's death, Lucy spent time with his parents and at one point took a photograph of Child P and Child O in a cot, Child Q. The final incident was the alleged attempted murder of Child Q on the 25th of June 2016, the day after she allegedly killed Child P. It's alleged that Lucy Letby injected Child Q with excess air and a clear fluid, possibly water or saline, into his stomach via a nasogastric tube in a bid to murder him. He was later transferred to another hospital, where he went on to make a rapid recovery.